Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host. Welcome back to the Better Way to Farm podcast. I'm your gracious host, Tyler, National Field Agronomist for the team. As you know, we spend each and every day increasing yields and improving profits. I've got an interesting podcast episode today, one that always pulls near and dear to my heart. And there are things that you see nowadays on social media that we probably wouldn't see otherwise. And it has to do with agronomists, certified crop advisors, and what makes you independent versus the local retail and some of these other people that are out there promoting different practices and different products. So I wanted to ask my great friend, Mr. Preston Groby, to join us. You've heard from him as well, but we are both clearly independent agronomists and also certified crop advisors. And I know that because we are a part of this team, a part of A Better Way to Farm, that we feel very passionate about being independent agronomists. And I wanted to talk through that today. And so, Preston, thank you for joining us. I know that, no introduction is needed, but if you would, for the listener that's just tuning in for the first time, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Preston, and I farm with my son and my dad in Southwest Iowa. And I have been with A Better Way to Farm since 2007. But it's been an awesome journey and fantastic people to work with. And there's got to be two things in whatever you do today. One is you got to enjoy what you do and who you do it with. And we absolutely have that with A Better Way to Farm.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I know that, you aren't as emotional as I am, but we are both pretty passionate about this whole independent agronomist kind of labeling. And it's always interesting to me when we get people coming back and saying, hey, if you're supposed to be independent, why in the world are you recommending specific products? And to me, I guess I'll just tell my story first is that, my background, all you guys know this, my background came from the retail agronomy side. I graduated from Iowa State, became a retail co-op agronomist. And that's where I really cut my teeth in the agronomy side. It was really forced me to get out of the retail side because it drove me nuts. Some of the things that I had to do or some of the things that I had to say drove me nuts because I knew ultimately it wasn't for the farmer's pocketbook. It was for the co-op's pocketbook. It wasn't about efficiency and making the farmer money. It was about margins and making the co-op money. And it drove me insane. So I blame Preston for bringing me on to the A Better Way to Farm team. I've been here for 10 years and I absolutely love it. And so I find those comments or those questions from quote unquote independent agronomists that say, I would never, recommend specific products because I'm independent. And that's what I want to dive into today. And so I don't know, Preston, do you want to kind of share a little bit about kind of your story? And, maybe I'll ask you that question, what makes you an independent agronomist and a certified crop advisor?
Yeah, so I am an independent agronomist and a certified crop advisor because I do own my own business, Precision Ag Vantage.
Yes.
And so I am independent and I can't, I can recommend any specific product I want to. I recommend the products specifically that A Better Way to Farm works with because I know how they will perform. I know how much it takes. If your zinc levels in your soil are at a certain point and your crop and your yield goal is at a certain level that you want to achieve, I can very confidently sit here and tell you it will take this much zinc to achieve those things. I can't sit here and tell you, based on your soil levels, you need 4 pounds of zinc. And then you go out and shop around and find the cheapest zinc that's out there. And then me not know what to expect from that. You could use zinc sulfate. You could use a lot of different forms of zinc. You could use a liquid zinc. There are a lot of liquid zincs out there on the market today that have different concentrations.
Different chelating agents.
And different levels of chelation also. Weight of the product has a lot to do to show you how much chelation is in there.
Yeah.
Also the concentration of the product. We look at the zinc that we use and it has a certain concentration. And all of those things play a very pivotal role in why I recommend the things that I recommend.
Yes. Yeah, and I could not agree more with that. And that's what has driven me to really release this podcast is that if you were listening, hopefully you are, a part of the team. If you are not, obviously, we'd love for you to reach out and get a hold of us. But it just all the time, constantly, we will run into that independent agronomist and they're like, I would never. And to me, as an independent agronomist, especially as a certified crop advisor, you do take an oath that you are going to be better stewards of the land and that you're going to be ethical and moral in the recommendations that you make. And if especially if you're a certified crop advisor and you're out there recommending products with heavy metals in them, or you're recommending products that are not in the proper form that the plant can take up, the soil has got to mineralize the one form and convert it into another form before it can even go up into the plant. There's so many inefficiencies out there that I'm not okay with. And that's why I recommend what I recommend. I'm not going to sit out there and say, you know what? I know that it takes, and like in your example, I know that it takes 5 pounds of zinc sulfate to get to where you're going to go. Or you could use a pint and a half, or, in our system that we recommend, it gets down to the hundredth or thousandth of an ounce. It's not 16 ounces. You could put on 7.456 ounces, and that's exactly what you need. It's never an over application. It's certainly never an under application because we aren't trying to build any soil test levels, but we're certainly not here to mine anything either.
Exactly.
We're at one of those 2-day fundamentals of agronomy events that we have throughout the Midwest. I just got done talking about the nitrogen section and how important it is to throttle back on nitrogen. And overabundance of nitrogen not only is bad for your pocketbook, but also increases disease pressure. So we talk about all of those things. And I'm just asking you, as you're listening to this, do you really trust your advisor that you're working with? I look at my co-op days and I don't feel like I lied to anybody, but I also feel like I did a lot of my growers a disservice because I was doing things that ultimately was better for the retailer than it was for the grower. And to me, that just doesn't sit right. Well, now I know that there are absolutely things that I would never recommend. And so, Preston, how do you handle that message? When you see something on Facebook, or maybe it's TikTok or Instagram or whatever social media platform it is that someone says, how could you ever make recommendations on a product when you call yourselves independent? That doesn't make you an independent if you're being, paid by or if you're being compensated from a particular company.
Yep. So if you look at that and you say, okay, so we look at different nutrients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you look at those things and how far does an independent agronomist recommendations go?
Yeah.
Do they talk about the different types of equipment that you could apply it with? Because we can split apply a lot of nutrients nowadays.
Yep.
And so you just is an true independent, as they like to stand on their rock and say, I'm a true independent. So are you just going to say you need this much of this nutrient and leave it at that? Leave it 100% up to the grower to decide when to put it on, where to put it on,
yes,
and how many times to put it on to get that same result at the end of the day. Because we talk a lot about split application and we talk a lot about timing. And so if somebody said, oh, well, to raise this crop, you need to put on 140 pounds of nitrogen.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that fall applied? Is that spring applied?
Yeah.
Is that split applied?
Yeah.
So there are so many variables that go into all of that beyond the variable about quality, concentration, and all those things that, and right back to what I said, where do you draw the line? So we want to follow that as far as we possibly can to make sure that the end user, the grower, gets the best response possible. Yeah. And we have to know specifically what they're working with in all of those realms to be able to just confidently stand there and say, yes, this is what you need to do, and this is what the result you can expect to get from that.
And Rod says it all the time. He said that everything we do in agriculture is good for somebody. We are here to make sure that that's good for our clients. Yes. The growers that we work with always need to get the best deal, hands down.
100%.
And again, that is something that I've always aligned with. Being an independent agronomist in the CCA, again, we take an oath. It's kind of a little hokey, but it is what it is. And ultimately, it comes back to the 4 R's. Even when I was at the co-op system, we would talk about the 4 R's, about the right rate and the right timing, the right placement, the right source. And then you realize, like, we joke about it only being 1 R. The rate is the only R in there. So if there's the right rate and the right time and the right source and the right place, then there's got to be 4 W's.
Yes.
And no one talks about it. No one thinks about it except for us. And that's what we try to promote. Look, if there's the right rate, there's also the wrong rate. I promise you're probably over applying your nitrogen. I promise. If there's a right time to do this, there's a wrong time to do this. Maybe a fall applied is the wrong time.
So let's talk about that for a moment. So in my opinion, you talk about nitrogen application in the fall. That is never an agronomic recommendation.
No.
That is 100% logistical because nitrogen leaches. And I was reading about Neil Kinsey the other day, and he was talking about nitrogen and how it has an 8-month window.
Okay, yep.
So let's talk about nitrogen application in October. October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May.
Perfect timing.
Got you out as far as May. When does corn use most of the nitrogen?
Around July.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we missed it 30 to 60 days.
It'll grow out of it.
Yeah. Yep. So essentially, we just need to put more on.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You might as well go out there and put on 250 pounds, fall applied anhydrous. And yeah, because we had an early harvest, now you can put it on September 14th and get all your gas pulled on. And then, yeah, by next July, 10th, when your field tassels completely and it's maximizing its nitrogen uptake, we might go ahead and throw on another 100 pounds. Why don't we go ahead and call the airplane because things look good, and we'll put on another 100 pounds and then induce enough plant stress that we actually cause tar spot to riddle our crop even more.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's be an independent agronomist, and just make wholesale recommendations. Let's not point our clients that we work with that should trust us with decisions. We're just going to say, oh, no, you go out and find whatever's the best deal for you. What I'm going to do, what you do, what we do is make sure that our clients get the best deal. Everything's maximized efficiency wise. We're not going to overspend. We're not going to underspend unless that's in your budget. If you say, look, guys, we've got a budget, that's where we're going to start. But we're not going to start pulling things out just because you have a budget. We're basically just going to go across the board and start to, on a percentage basis, start to pull back on, on maybe it's some micronutrients or, maybe it is that in-furrow program. But we're going to start there and we're going to make sure that we build something as a team that is sustainable, especially for 2025.
Absolutely. And that's just like, I was talking earlier in the program this morning, and I talked about, we work with guys in Illinois that pay $400 an acre cash rent.
Yep.
And we work with guys in Western Kansas that buy ground for $400 an acre.
Yep.
Both of those guys have very differing expectations. Our goal is at the end of the year that they're both profitable, and that's what we help them do.
Yeah. One of the things as we get this episode wrapped up, one of the things that we always talk about as you're listening, and I'm going to say this with as big of heart as possible. If you have not reached out to the page, if you have not come to one of our 2-day agronomy events, we are now kind of on the final stretch. Depending on when you listen to this episode, we may only have a few programs left. And I know how difficult it is. Preston, your boy is an ag loan officer, and it is very, very difficult right now in 2025 to get an operating note to carry yourself through the year. The coolest part about what we do is that we work with clients that have literally told us they go into their ag loan officer and they say, all right, I know it's tight, but what can we do? And the ag loan officer says, oh, yeah, you guys are working with the Better Way to Farm and doing that deal. Yeah, you guys are just fine. But my gosh, everyone else that's not doing what you do, man, it's really rough out there. So if you are being called to do something better, to figure out how to be a better farmer, there is absolutely a better way. Now, Preston, do you have any final thoughts for the listeners out there?
Yeah, I guess ultimately, if you're looking for some help, we are here for you. shoot us a message. We'll have one of the team members reach out to you, and we will do to the best of our ability. Not any one of us has all the answers, but the team is phenomenal. And we'll be honest with you. If that individual you're talking to doesn't know the answer right off the top of their head, they will get with the team and we'll get you that correct answer.
Yes.
Because we want you to have the right information, and we can get that to you.
Yeah. Preston, thank you very much. That to us is what it means to truly be independent. We are here to help you out, and we want to make sure that your 2025 is profitable. Again, we just have a few of those agronomy events left. So please, please, please reach out to the page. If you feel like there's something that they're doing, some recommendations that are not truly helping you, please, please, please reach out to A Better Way to Farm right now, and we'll get you the help that you need. So thank you for tuning in. Please, again, like, share, and even subscribe. If you want to send this to a friend or somebody else that you may know that is struggling, we'd absolutely love to talk with them as well. We thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate you as always, and we hope that you have a better day.